In our last two episodes, we walked the stone corridors of Mount Carmel with the Essenes, the people of expectancy, those who prepared the world for a birth that would alter the destiny of humanity. We saw how they restored the feminine power through purity, balance, and devotion, and how they trained Mary as the living temple through which divine life would enter the earth. But the Essenes also prepared another path, a deeper current hidden beneath prophecy and ritual. They believed the coming Messiah would not simply preach morality or deliver comfort. He would reveal the ancient unity of two great forces, love and mind. Cayce called these the two laws, and he said Jesus would be their perfect embodiment. To understand this, we must return to the quiet schools of the Essenes, centuries before Bethlehem. They believed creation flowed through two rivers, the river of love, which heals, binds, and harmonizes, and the river of mind, which shapes, directs, and brings order. In the universe, these forces operate as attraction and intention. In the soul, they appear as compassion and will. The Essenes taught that when these forces separate, humanity suffers. Love without mind becomes sentiment. Mind without love becomes tyranny. But when the two join, the soul becomes a living channel of the divine. From childhood, Jesus was trained to bring these two currents into perfect harmony. Cayce said that even as a young boy, he perceived the thoughts behind the words of others. Not to judge them, but to understand the fear beneath their mistakes, his compassion came not from softness, but from clarity. He saw the storms of the mind, and he met them with the calm of the heart. As he grew older, the Essenes guided him through his first spiritual tests. These were not trials of punishment, but of balance. They taught him how the body responds to emotion, how the mind shapes reality, and how the heart directs the flow of life force through the 7 spiritual centers. These centers, Cayce said, were the same 7 lamps before the throne spoken of in Revelation. Each center had to be awakened in order, not by force, but through alignment. The first tests involved the body itself, fasting, discipline, and learning to master desire rather than deny it. The Essenes believed the Messiah would need full command of his physical vessel, for the body is the instrument through which spirit speaks. The second tests were of emotion, learning not to react to anger with anger, nor fear with fear. Cayce said Jesus passed these tests early, often calming the quarrels of other children simply through the steadiness of his presence. The third tests were of the mind, holding a single thought with such purity that it became a creative force. The Essenes believed this power had been used by prophets like Elijah and Elisha, and that the Messiah would wield it with perfect innocence. But the greatest tests were those of love, unconditional, uncompromising, unwavering love that sees the divine image buried beneath every human error. The Essenes knew this would be the hardest law to master, for love demands the surrender of self-will, not weakness, surrender, aligning the personal will with the divine will. Until they move as one, Cayce said, Jesus accepted this path long before he was born. It was not forced upon him. He chose it across lifetimes, preparing step by step to become the elder brother for all humanity. During his adolescence, the Essenes guided him through meditations designed to awaken the pineal and pituitary centers, the holy of holies within the body. These centers, Cayce explained, allow the soul to experience direct communion with the divine, an inner annunciation, just as Mary experienced an outer one. Jesus learned to lift his consciousness through these centers, aligning his emotions with love and his thoughts with mind, until the two laws merged into a single flame. It was here, Cayce said, that the Christ consciousness overshadowed him, not possessing him, but awakening within him the memory of his true nature. This moment did not make him divine. It reminded him of the divinity he had always carried. and it is the same divinity we carry now, though we do not yet fully remember. While Mary taught him tenderness, humility, and the rhythm of the heart, Joseph taught him the order of the mind, discipline, structure, integrity, and endurance. The Essenes believed that without Joseph's influence, Jesus' compassion might have lacked the strength needed to fulfill his mission. Without Mary's influence, his strength might have lacked the compassion needed to heal the world. Together, they embodied the two laws. Together, they shaped him into the balance of heaven and earth. From his earliest years, Jesus felt the world more intensely than those around him. The Essenes understood this sensitivity not as a burden, but as a sign. Cayce said, "Souls like his carry memory close to the surface, and ordinary life presses on them like a weight." To protect and refine that sensitivity, the Essenes shaped his days with intention. Morning began before sunrise. While the sky was still violet and the air cool, the community gathered in silence. Lamps flickered along the stone walls, and the sea wind from Carmel drifted through the outer courts. The elders would begin with a simple invocation, not to a distant God, but to the presence within each heart. Jesus, even as a boy, was taught to feel this presence in the quiet before any word was spoken. Then came the disciplines of the body. Cayce described how the Essenes used stretching, controlled breathing, and postures to keep the body aligned as a clear channel. They believed that if the spine, glands, and nerves were in harmony, the spiritual centers could receive guidance more easily. Jesus learned to breathe deeply into the lower centers to calm strong emotion and to lift his breath upward when seeking guidance. These early exercises prepared him for the intense spiritual forces he would one day carry after the morning practices. There were lessons in Scripture, but for the Essenes, Scripture was not just history, it was a code. The stories of Moses, Elijah, Samuel, and Isaiah were read not only as events in time, but as symbols of inner experience. Crossing the Red Sea meant passing from fear into faith. Elijah's still small voice on the mountain meant the quiet guidance within. As these stories were explained, Jesus saw himself not above them, but inside them. He was being shown the map of the soul. The elders also taught him the law as it was known in that day. They wanted him to understand the customs, the rituals, and the structures of the people he had come to serve. Cayce said Jesus never came to destroy law, but to fulfill it, to bring back its original meaning. That fulfillment required knowing the law from the inside out. So he studied the commandments, the feasts, the purification rites, the temple duties. He saw where law had become fear instead of love, habit instead of living truth. Alongside scripture and law, the Essenes introduced him to what we might call today the science of the soul. They studied the stars, but not for fortune-telling. To them, the heavens were a clock of great cycles. Cayce said they watched the movement of the North Star, the turning of the ages, and the signs in the sky that marked when certain souls would incarnate. Jesus grew up understanding that time itself has rhythms, that humanity moves through seasons of forgetting and remembering. He did not see his life as an accident in history, but as part of a pattern known long before his birth. There were also lessons in healing. The Essenes had simple but profound remedies: herbs, oils, water applications, and most of all, prayer. They believed that true healing begins in the spirit, moves through the mind, and finally reaches the body. Cayce's readings echoed this, saying that the spirit is always whole, the mind is the builder, and the body is the result. As a boy, Jesus watched how a gentle word calmed pain more quickly than medicine alone, how forgiveness restored the eyes of someone who had given up hope. He learned that love itself is a healing force, and that the mind can either block it or allow it to flow. Through all of this, the Essenes were watching him as closely as they were teaching him. They looked not only at what he could do, but at how he chose to respond. When other children were cruel, did he retaliate? When he was misunderstood, did he harden? When he saw injustice, did he grow bitter? These were the real examinations. The elders were not testing his knowledge, they were watching the growth of his heart. Cayce said that in these years, Jesus faced every temptation common to humanity: pride, anger, discouragement, loneliness. The difference was not that he avoided them, but that he met them consciously. When pride whispered, "You are above these people," love answered, "You came for them." When anger rose, "This is unfair," mind replied, "There is a larger purpose here." Slowly, the two laws wove together in his daily life, not in grand miracles, but in simple choices made in hidden places. At night, under the stars that had foretold his coming, Jesus often sat in the courtyards with the older members of the community. They spoke of the ancient schools in Egypt, the desert prophets, the voices that had promised a redeemer. They did not flatter him or place a crown upon his head. Instead, they reminded him that the greatest soul is the servant of all. The more light a soul carries, the more it must bend toward those in darkness. In this way, the Essenes kept him grounded. They honored who he was, but they also prepared him for the misunderstanding, resistance, and rejection he would meet. A world that had twisted law into fear would not easily receive the law of love. A world that worshipped power would not instantly understand the law of mind. As service, Jesus had to be strong enough inside to stand in truth without hatred, to face violence without becoming violent. These were the quiet years of formation, when almost nothing was recorded, but everything was being built within him. As he reached young adulthood, Jesus began traveling beyond Carmelite lands, to Egypt, India, and Persia. Cayce said these journeys were not wanderings, but initiations. In Egypt, he learned how the mind directs the life force through the body. In India, he studied compassion as the highest form of wisdom. In Persia, he learned how divine law governs the cycles of time. Everywhere he went, he was recognized, not by appearance, but by vibration. By the time he returned home, he had mastered the two laws the Essenes had preserved for centuries. When he entered the synagogue for the first time as a teacher, he spoke not as a prophet, repeating tradition, but as one who remembered the source from which the tradition had come. He said, "The Father and I are one," meaning not that he alone was divine, but that divinity is the natural state of a soul in perfect balance. This was the teaching the Essenes hoped the world would one day receive. And now, 2,000 years later, the world is returning to it. Cayce said humanity is entering a cycle where love and mind must merge again, not just in spiritual leaders, but in everyday people. Compassion must guide intellect, reason must serve the heart. The masculine and feminine energies within each soul must rise together. This is the Christ consciousness, not a theology, but a state of being, when the heart forgives and the mind understands, when the will aligns with love instead of fear, when thought becomes prayer and action becomes service. Then the two laws unite within us, and the world begins to heal. This was the mission of Jesus. This was the dream of the Essenes, and this is the work we continue today. If this message stirred something within you, stay close. In our next episode, we will explore the hidden years of Jesus' childhood, the lost travels that shaped his ministry, and what Cayce revealed about his forgotten initiations. And if this message spoke to your heart, stay close. We're just getting started. Make sure you subscribe to Mystic Podcast Cruise. It helps this work reach the people who need it most. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.